And we have this morning 3 panels of witnesses. And on the first panel, we're delighted to welcome Senator Joe Manchin of the great state of West Virginia, and he'll be our first witness. Senator Manchin is on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, and he's also chairman of the Public Lands, Forest, and Mining Subcommittee. And I know you're on a lot of other committees as well, Senator. But we welcome you and thank you for taking time to join us this morning. And I will say that when Senator Manchin finishes his statement, he's got to get over to a confirmation hearing. So I know that you all will be disappointed you can't ask him any questions. But Senator Manchin, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you for inviting me and having me be part of this. My colleague from West Virginia, Congressman McKinley, good to be with you. And I want to, first of all, say that I do believe that 7 billion people on Mother Earth has had an impact on the environment. We have a responsibility. We also have 7 billion people that would like to eat and provide for themselves and their family. So we've got to find that balance. The EPA regulation of greenhouse gas emissions from both new and existing power plants are what we're talking about in this legislation that we proposed. Our legislation would protect Americans' access to reliable and affordable electricity now and for decades to come, finding that balance we talk about. We need a diverse energy portfolio, which I think, Mr. Upton, you've talked about, and we sure do need that, a true all-of-the-above mix of natural gas, nuclear, renewables, oil, and coal. Unfortunately, the Environmental Protection Agency has chosen a regulatory path devoid of common sense that will take us way off course from a future of abundant, affordable, clean energy. Our legislation tries to get the EPA back on track, but in a way that does nothing to prevent the EPA from acting in a reasonable and rational way. Mr. Chairman, EPA's proposed standards for new coal-fired power plants would effectively prevent any new plants from being constructed. Their standards require coal-fired power plants to deploy technologies that are not currently commercially viable. And though EPA has yet to formally propose new standards for existing power plants, there is every indication that these standards will be unachievable as well. The EPA is holding the coal industry to impossible standards, and for the first time ever, the federal government is trying to force an industry to do something that is technologically impossible to achieve, at least for now. The industry is making steady progress, but is still a ways off from developing the carbon capture and storage technologies that EPA claims are commercially viable. We don't have a commercially viable plant right now. Right now, coal provides 37% of all electricity generated in the United States, and the Department of Energy projects coal will provide at least that much through 2040. Right now, we simply can't make up the difference with renewables. That's just wishful thinking. So if we just stand by and do nothing and let the EPA eliminate coal from the energy mix, we're going to see stability of our electrical grid threatened and see the price of electricity rise dramatically, jeopardizing America's economy and countless jobs with no real environmental benefit. But we are just standing by. Our bipartisan, bicameral legislation is part of a national discussion about our energy future and the proper role of regulatory bodies like the EPA. Our legislation ensures that EPA will no longer be able to impose unachievable standards in coal-fired power plants. It is just common sense that regulations are based on what is technologically possible at the time they are proposed. With regulations, if they aren't feasible, they aren't reasonable. For new plants, our legislation will require that any EPA regulation must be categorized by fuel type, coal or gas. EPA can only impose a standard if that standard has been achieved for 12 consecutive months at 6 different U.S. electricity generating plants operating on a full commercial basis. For existing plants, any EPA proposed rule will not take effect until a federal law is enacted specifying the rule's effective date, and EPA must report to Congress on the economic impact of the rule. Mr. Chairman, it's time we strike a balance between a healthy environment and a healthy economy. That's all we've asked for is a balance. And that's what our legislation does. Abundant, reliable, affordable energy made this country the economic leader of the world. We all wouldn't enjoy the life we have today if it had not been for the coal when produced by the hardworking people of this country. And that's the same formula that will keep us up at the front. It's time the EPA started working as our partner, not as our adversary, to achieve that balance. And the EPA can start by recognizing it is just common sense that regulations should be based on what is technologically possible at the time they are proposed. That's all we've asked for. Again, I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all the members of the committee here for allowing me to come before you, and thank you for the opportunity to work with you on this very important piece of legislation.
Well, Senator Manchin, thank you so much for your testimony. I know all of us look forward to working with you as we move forward, and we appreciate very much your taking time to come over and visit us on the House side.
Well, it's good to be with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say welcome to Senator Manchin. Welcome.
Thank you, my friend.
I'm an admirer of yours, and I'm delighted to see you in the committee this morning.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dingell. You're my friend. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dingell. At this time, I'd like to call